Hi guys, Miss Ross here. I want to talk to you guys briefly, okay? And I want to let you guys know that tipping is not mandatory, all right? I came across a post on Facebook and you guys were going in, and a lot of people were in their feelings about what this young lady posted in regards to, and what I agree on what she said, in regards to it is not the guest's responsibilities to ensure that you go home with a fat check. And not so much in those words, but it's not, guys, okay? I don't know where this whole concept of tipping is a mandatory responsibility of the guest comes from, but it is not true. Tipping is optional, okay? It is something that the restaurant and the servers expect us to do, out of courtesy of, maybe getting a server who is good at their job. So it's kind of like a form of appreciation, like thank you for serving me, but it's not mandatory for the simple fact that the employer that you guys, the ones that hire you, we don't hire you. Customers, guests, we don't hire you. The employer is really responsible to ensure that you're being paid well. So while all of you are going in on customers who don't tip, you need to go ahead and put all that energy into the employer. Why don't you boycott your employer and say, hey, you need to pay us a little more? Because ultimately, that's who is responsible to pay you, not us. So if a person chooses not to tip you, doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them broke. You have celebrities and rich people who do not tip. And we all know that they have the money to tip, but sometimes people just feel like they don't want to tip. They don't have to tip. Me personally, I'm not going to do something I don't want to do. I'm most certainly not going to eat at an establishment that tells me I have to tip a server, especially if the server did not serve me well. You have some servers that have attitude problems and just horrible, So for me, I am one of these people that do like to tip, especially if my server was just exceptional at their job. I would like to tip him or her. But there have been times where I have not tipped because I felt like the service sucked. I felt like my server had a bad attitude. And just like my children, I do not reward bad behavior. But basically, guys, all you servers and waiters and waitresses out there, tipping is based on your professionalism and your courtesy to your guests. So, and then sometimes, guys, just because you do a good job at what you do, that still does not mean a person has to tip you. If you are one of these people who feel as though it is our responsibility to tip you, I'm here to let you know that no, it's not. Tipping is optional. Now, let me explain to you the type of establishments where tipping is in fact mandatory. If you work at a strip club, if you go into a strip club, tipping is mandatory. Now, it's one thing I can't stand is a person that goes into a strip club and says that they're just there to watch the game, or says that they're just there to get a drink. No, you're not. You're there because you want to enjoy the comforts of watching a naked woman come cross your path sometime or another while you are in that establishment. You are there for the naked women, okay? Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to your spouses. You are there to watch naked women because there are a lot of bars that you can go to. Let me name a few for you. Brews Room, TGI Fridays in my hometown, Dogs R Us. You got Applebee's, you got Chili's. You have, all these places have TVs where they do not have naked women walking around, where you can go watch the game, you can go get a drink. All the same, okay? So when you walk into a strip club, it is mandatory that you tip those girls because the only reason that you are there is for the girls. Because if you're not there for the girls, like I said, you would have attended one of the establishments that I had just recently told you, okay? So again, guys, unless you work at a strip club, it is not mandatory that I tip you. And this is why I don't frequent strip clubs, because I know that those girls, they make their money solely off of tips. You restaurant servers and waiters and waitresses, the employer pays you, and sadly, it's just $2, sometimes $4 an hour. But then again, you chose to work there. You knew how much the job paid when they told you in your interview, like the one girl said in her status. So why would you go and work for an employer that is telling you, look, we're only going to pay you $2 an hour? I wouldn't even take that type of job. I'd try my luck out there doing my own thing before I, let someone put me on a schedule where I'm only going to be making $2 to $4 an hour, especially when I know that tips are not a dependable way for me to count my money. I don't count money before it's in my hand anyways. And you can't either, because you don't know whether or not you're going to get a customer that wants to tip you. And it doesn't mean the customer is broke. It doesn't mean the person is a bad person. It just means that they have exercised their right not to tip. And they have a right to do that. They don't have to tip you. Now, let me explain to you why it's not mandatory that we tip. And this is backed up because your employer is not kicking. Has anyone ever been kicked out of a restaurant for not tipping? People have been kicked out of restaurants for disorderly conduct, for being disrespectful to their waiters and servers, but not so much because they didn't tip. You know why? Because the restaurant would not be in business without me coming in and sitting down and ordering a $50 to $60 entree. They wouldn't. And so they're only hiring you to serve so that way it attracts us to the establishment, because a lot of people like to be served. So therefore you have a lot of restaurants that say, okay, I'm going to hire some servers, because a lot of people don't like to go to where there's a buffet and they have to get up and serve themselves. I don't mind it, but 9 times out of 10 most restaurants have servers. But again, we didn't hire you. Okay, the guest didn't hire you to serve us. That comes with the establishment that you work for. It is your boss, your employer's responsibility to ensure that you go home with enough money for you to be able to afford the expenses, that you are responsible of paying. Again, not us. All right. So if, like I said, back to what I was saying, if it was mandatory, we'd be asked to leave. But the restaurant is in business to make money. They're not in business to ensure that you get tips. They're not in business for you. They're in business for themselves. They're in business to make money. And the only way that they're going to make money is if customers come into the store or into the restaurant and eat the food. Without the customers, neither you or your employer would even be your employer wouldn't be in business, and you wouldn't have a job. So technically, it is because of the customers that you even have a job that you're complaining about. Because again, how does business work? A lot of you act as though you don't know how business operates. Businesses are not in business just because they're in business. They're in business because people are frequently coming into their establishment and spending money with them. But like I said before, there's no restaurant. I mean, if you guys know one, let me know. Because I have not heard of any type of establishment that is kicking customers out because they don't tip the servers or the waitresses. So again, if you guys are, mad that you're not being tipped, find another occupation, find another job, because you're not going to be able to afford to make a living at these establishments in the first place. Unless you are working for a high-end restaurant where billionaires and millionaires frequent, then you can make a good living, just serving. Because see, your tips are going to be big, and those people, they just tip just to be tipping. They could care less. They tip without thinking about it. It's just a habit, It's not like they're reading anything into it. It's not like these millionaires and these billionaires are saying, oh, okay, let me check to see how much 15% of this is. No, they just tip. And they normally tip big, some of them. Because we all know the story where Michael Jordan went into the restaurant, didn't tip at all. Didn't leave it absolutely nothing. So again, it is not mandatory for people to tip you. If you are unhappy with your job, if you're unhappy at the fact that you're not being tipped, I would recommend that you go get a job at a strip club, or I would recommend that you get out of the restaurant industry altogether and find you another occupation where your income is salary based or hourly wage based, okay? But maybe tips are not working for you because, again, It is not our responsibility to tip you, and we don't have to tip you. All right? You guys make sure you stay tuned and tune in, MissRossRadio.com, and follow me on YouTube, guys. Got to get my subscribers up. You can follow me at Miss Ross Radio across all my social media platforms, MSROSS Radio. All right?